The political landscape in Nevis is beginning to take shape ahead of the next general elections, and the Nevis Reformation Party is putting forward a new face in the race for constituency number 11, covering St. Thomas's and St. James. I am Jamiella McPhail, and I am honored to sit down with Phillip to talk about the man, the candidate, his politics, and the kind of representation he intends to bring to the people of constituency 11. Welcome, Mario.
And tell us a little bit about your upbringing and the experiences that have shaped the Mario Phillip sitting before me today.
Well, I smile because I have fond memories growing up. My earliest memories is just sitting in the lap of my grandmother, and she used to wear long dresses, right? So I would sink down in between and kind of swing back and forth, and she would tell me all sorts of stories. She would tell me about her time in school, things that she learned, the things that my grandmother taught me, because she stopped working when I was born. I was her first grandchild, right? That's my grandmother, Alana Brandy in Stony Grove, right? So, and I lived with her. And so, even when I look back, she was dedicated to raising me. I don't know if she knew that she had the future candidate for the Nevis Reformation Party, right, in her lap, but she really behaved like she held a world leader in her lap. But I spent a lot of time with her, as I said, and just curiosity. She taught me a lot. I don't remember her talking to me like a little child,
baby.
She'd tell me all these things, read to me, teach me how to spell, and it just caused my mind to want to see this world, to learn and explore. So that's one of the earliest memories that I have. And I also have a very fond memory in Jessops, because I will move between both, right? And especially spend vacations in Jessops. And all of my cousins were there, right? On my father's side, they had much more family members. So many cousins, especially even those who lived abroad, would come home. And the excitement of going into the village, into the surroundings with the other friends from the community, picking mangoes and all sorts of different fruits and getting in trouble and coming back late. And I was the most times the youngest one, right?
Wow.
So I would, use that to try and get away from any licks that should be had.
Yes, because it wasn't your fault.
It wasn't my fault. I didn't go willingly. But those are the fun memories I have. And those interactions taught me, the importance of the people around you. So you must value people. Anybody could teach you anything. That's one of the things I learned. So I learned so much from my cousins. Definitely what to do and sometimes what not to do. I have lived a life that's had adversity, that had triumphs. I think based on who I am and my giftings and talents, I've had some great opportunities. And the old adage, to whom much is given, much is required. And so I think I consider myself very fortunate, coming from humble beginnings, but I have been able to go places in this world and access opportunities. And my passion is to ensure that others, my fellow men, the young people of St. Kitts and Nevis, can have opportunities like mine and even more to be the best that they can be. Those are the things that would have built me, and the older persons in the village learn very quickly to respect them because they don't, if word get back to mama, you know. Yeah, so, yeah, those are some fun times growing up.
Was politics something that you've always been interested in, or did something happen that convinced you that this is the time for you to enter the political arena?
I think interested in, yes, I've always followed, like maybe since around high school age. Or maybe just before that, you know, around 2026 was one of the epic elections in Nevis, when the Nevis Reformation Party, you know, came to power, and returned to power. So I guess that's when I started paying attention, and I would always have keen interest, not only in what's happening politically here, but around the world, right, around our region. I love reading about it, following what's going on, the debates, you know, in Asia, in Europe, in North America. And that would have been the extent of my interest. I don't think I can tell you I was ever interested to this level, right? I never foresaw that I would be a candidate. I just loved politics, engaging in the debates, having an opinion, you know, listening to others. That's what I was interested in. But I think that engaging in politics at this level, in representative politics, it's something that called me, you know, and so I had to really answer. You know, Martin Luther King, he says that you have not really fully lived unless you look beyond the narrow confines of your own concerns and consider the broader concerns of humanity. And really and truly, I think just it dawned on me a few years ago that I've been given much, and it may not be a coincidence that I'm so in tune with what's happening politically and have been given opportunities to travel the world and learn from of what's happening in different governments, and you know what's the best models for development and so on. It dawned on me that I've been given much, and my people deserve to benefit from the much that I've been given.
But Mario, why now? Why have you decided that this is the moment for you to enter elected office?
Well, why no? You know, my campaign launch, the theme, the time is now. I believe it's just a coming together of everything from the earliest childhood memories, you know, and the lessons I learned on my grandmother's lap. Every teacher who would have instilled wisdom and given me guidance and direction, to all of the opportunities I keep going back to, that I've had to study development and learn about how communities work and best practices for democracy across the world. All of that together with the current political climate that we're in. You know, there are just a lot of things that are happening that screams that Nevis needs good representation, that our people, our young people can believe in. Representation from people who care not about themselves only, but about their fellow men and what would happen to Nevis, not only today, but for generations to come. And to provide the opportunities for young people to ensure that the parents of today have the wherewithal to provide, you know, those opportunities for the youth, the meals that the young people need to grow up today, because we know the cost of living is exorbitant. And
Yes.
I apologize for bringing you to Nevis, you know, because it is even higher here. But you'd return back. You'd return to where living is easier. But we have to tough it out, you know, and we have to hope that there is a brighter future somewhere. We have to hope that we could get over this period, that we'll survive day to day, week to week. And just an example, we know the climate we live in with the different world events, the wars
Yeah.
and rumors of wars that has
Yeah.
impacted our economy, here. That's true throughout the world. But if we have government that is really caring, government that is responsible and cautious about how they spend the money and ensure it's for the benefit of the people, we would be able to have safety nets in place. We would be reducing surcharges, not increasing them, so that people don't have to choose whether or not they would keep on the lights or, be able to feed their family. And so it's increasingly, these are signals that are showing me that something needs to happen to ensure that Nevis can be the best that it can be.
Okay, but you do know
Yes.
that there are easier ways to serve your community than entering the political arena, right? And with this decision that you've made,
Yes.
it comes with sacrifices.
Yes.
So what are you prepared to sacrifice?
Yes, I've already sacrificed it, that I appreciate that question, because I can remember when I made the decision and I said, finally, okay, it's been on my heart, for so long, and I was like, no, that can't be, or this must be a phase. This feeling would leave me. But and people would come up to me, I would travel and I would have a simple conversation that seemed to be about nothing. And the person I'm talking with in this foreign country would say, Navi, you're going to be a leader in your country.
Wow.
Right? I was like, what are you talking about? So, just different things. And I remember I asked one of them, I was in Trinidad for a men's conference, and just having a casual conversation, and this gentleman said this to me, and I asked him, well, why are you saying this? And I'm battling internally,
Yes.
with this feeling all the time, and so I'm like, why are you saying this? And he said, because I hear how you talk and you're concerned for others, and you have a passion for your people, and you're going to do well, right? And I'm like, this is a madman. I've not told this man I'm doing anything, but
Yes.
he's saying I'm going to do well. And so these things stick with me. And I finally had to say, well, people are seeing it, and, it's not a coincidence that I have the abilities. God must have given me them for a purpose. The ability to communicate, to care, to represent, even in my daily work, I'm an advocate, for persons who are marginalized and mistreated. My work as a gender officer has led me to study and to practice reaching those people, representing those people, bringing them back from fringes, so that they could live their best life. And so everything just said, Mario, you're rightly positioned. And being a Christian, being a preacher and called to ministry, right? I know what a calling is. I've dealt with it before, and I know you don't do well in resisting when the Lord has put something on your heart. And so, in 2024, I said to myself, and for the first time to others around me, I am going to do this. Somehow, I didn't know how, but I just said it out loud, as if to relieve the burden.
Yes.
I'm going to represent my people. It took me a while to actually speak to the persons who matter, to actually get the wheels turning. I was a bit apprehensive, but I did. And when I did that, the weight of the sacrifice came down, because it's like, okay, this is going to be real. This is possibly going to be real.
Because you've started the journey.
Yes. And I remember I counted everything. I was at a point in my life where I was thinking of, starting a business, going to do some new courses to broaden my capacity, and so I would be able to work in different fields and so on. That's where I was getting ready to set myself up, for a good life, and ensure everything is well with me. But as Martin Luther King said, it was just a time where I had to look beyond the narrow concerns of the individual, of myself, and recognize the broader concerns of my fellow men. And so I have counted the cost. I've given up, quite a lot of that. The focus on myself and doing what I want to do, and the things that I've mapped out for my life, if in the near future at least, to ensure that my people, the people I grew up with, that I climb mango trees with, and the people who grew me up, like my grandmother and their generation that's still alive, I have to give to those people the best of myself. Else I wouldn't feel good on the inside.
Why the Nevis Reformation Party? What does that party represent to Mario Phillip?
Well, the Nevis Reformation Party represents for me not only peace, progress, and prosperity. That has been the party's mantra, right? But the Nevis Reformation Party has roots that go far down. So the peace, progress, and prosperity, I would say they're just the fruits, and we experienced that, myself personally, from 2006, when the party returned to power, and others older than me, in the time of Simeon Daniel before that. I can remember the government in sunshine, as it was called, with all of the what seemed as revolutionary things, roads where there were only dirt paths, and the focus on education for children, teen mothers being able to return to school, the community centers being built out throughout the island that made our society come alive and benefits us up to today. The housing revolution, there was Cherry Garden and other housing developments across the island that impacted the people of Nevis, their personal lives, their families, and their generational wealth, right? Those are the things that NRP represents, but it's just the fruit of the party's philosophy and its ethos. The roots go down to things like integrity. The roots go down to Nevis first, before we look at selling out to investors and what billionaires want or what we want personally. We have to put Nevis and everybody who lives here first. Those are the real things that cause me to be passionate about the movement, the party that is the NRP. It's something that I can believe in, something that I see benefits the entire island of Nevis. And so that's why I feel comfortable in joining this movement, because as a person of integrity myself, it wouldn't sit well with me. I wouldn't last 2 minutes being with a party that I wasn't sure, represented my values and the values of my nation,
What did the leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, see in you? And what have you learned so far from her leadership?
She must have seen something good. If I could tell you a secret I have not shared with many, when I called her up and said, I would like to see you, I have something I need to share with you. She told me, Mary, I want to see you as well. I have to share something with you. Yes. So it's funny that you ask that. She must have seen something. And I let her share, and she told me, that she has seen, you know, how I've grown, how I conduct myself, um, my passion for the community, and how I how I just do my work with the diligence that I do, and so on. And she told me that she sees a future with me, when she takes the government and becomes Premier of Nevis. And so I was like, okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you for that confidence.
Yes.
Um, and then I shared with her what
That you
was
had
on
your
my heart.
interest as well.
Yes.
Yes.
What was really, on my conscience and my mind for a while. And immediately she said, wow, um, we are going to. I told her, I know that there's a process that I would have to go through. And she said, never mind. I'm sure that you would be considered favorably, So she had confidence from the start. And what have I learned from her leadership? I've
Yes.
learned quite a lot. I've learned that it pays to be calm under pressure, So instead of escalating things, you could always choose to de-escalate. So we can all consider what is best for everyone, you know. So I can get passionate too. But she just has such a calming presence,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes, and I have learned importantly, how she cares for everybody in her constituency, in St. James, in walking about with her. In that side of number 11, I am always moved by how much people love her, and it's because she cares. And I've really been inspired by that. She genuinely cares, and people feel that. People can tell when you're genuine,
Yes.
when you look out for them. And so it's like, it's no surprise that she would have won her seat in St. James. And I know that people resonate with her, with the kind of politics that she brings. And I have learned from her, that is what is needed. And that's one of the things I would take into my representation as well. Caring genuinely for people. Politics is not about the loud and flashy and all of those kind of things. At the end of the day, people need to know that you care for them. And so I've learned to keep that at the center.
Why should the people of St. James and St. Thomas choose Mario Phillip instead of another candidate who may offer themselves?
Well, my campaign slogan is Mario for the people, right? And so I must say, first and foremost, that I am blown away by how much people have embraced me. I would have been around in the community for months before my launch on July 16th. So a number of persons would have known, and meeting them at their front doors and in bars and just on the street as they move along. They embraced me. They were elated, and people would say, they're so happy that I've made this step, and this is what we need, young people like you. A lot of people would say, I know you. When I try to introduce myself, I know you. I see you all the time. I know what you're doing with young people and the different things, and they may know me from church and so on, and they love how I give of myself to impact others. So sometimes I don't get to introduce myself and tell them why, right? But so I am happy that they would have embraced me like that. And so I've realized that not only is Mario for the people, but the people are for Mario. And they can be assured that in selecting me as their member of parliament, that I would give of myself tirelessly and selflessly to serve them, to ensure that their concerns, their opinions are heard. I would never say, well, you elected me, and so I will do what I think. Because I know that the true meaning of representation means I'm working for somebody else. And that's the people of St. Thomas's and St. James. In electing Mario, they would get somebody who puts the youth of our country, as a priority. I'm the chairman of the Nevis Boys Mentorship Program. That I would have, formed and helped to develop from 2022, right? And I would have done that initiative not only because it's part of my job, my daily duties, but because I remember what it's like being a young boy, right? With my father not always being there, right? And somebody else stopped what they were doing and paid attention to me, and they stopped what they were doing and they invested. Stopped what they were doing and they decided to pour into me and see my potential. And so you would have a representative that ensures that initiatives like that are replicated and carried out at the highest level, so that more young persons across the island of Nevis and St. Kitts could know that their potential needs to be worked out, and that we believe in them, that there are people who are willing to pour resources into them to ensure that they become the best that they can be. So the work that I do is personal to me because I've lived it and I've benefited from others, right, who would have poured into me, and I want to do the same, right? And so they would have a representative who is concerned with the future of our people, concerned about how they pay the bills at the end of the month. I wasn't born with a gold spoon in my mouth. I don't even know if I had a spoon, but I know my mother and grandmother would have done the best that they could, right? And so I know there was a point my mother worked 2 jobs to ensure that she could make ends meet, and so I understand that struggle. I understand after coming home from college and working, in the Ministry of Health and Gender, that I have scratched my head a number of times and say, well, how am I going to pay rent and balance everything? And my salary is not minimum wage, right? And so you could imagine the mothers who are at minimum wage. I'm concerned about them, who have to not only scratch their head, but they may have to do other things that they may not even want to do to ensure that they feed their families. And because of where I work, I'm confronted with those stories. I've worked with women who stayed a bit longer than they should because they didn't feel like they had any other choice. And so in electing Mario, you would have somebody who hears and who cares, who understands the struggle and want to see the people of number 11, St. James and St. Thomas's, be elevated from that struggle, because the struggle is mine too.
So you've started your groundwork, you've started speaking to people within your constituency, and I mean, you live in the constituency, so you understand the struggles, as you've said. What are the 3 main challenges facing St. James and St. Thomas at this time?
Well, I know from my work, and I would have shared with you earlier that number 11 is at the same time one of the wealthiest places on Nevis, and in some aspects the least wealthy, right, on Nevis, because you have developments like the Four Seasons and the various estates and villa,
Yes.
developments where the rich and the wealthy and the famous, love to be at and live, even if it is just for a few months in the year. And then you have a disproportionate number of persons who are struggling, really struggling. I remember, interacting with a lady in St. Thomas's, and she said to me, was sharing with her, some ideas about what we wanted to do in terms of reaching the young people, especially the boys, through the mentorship program that I lead. And she said to me, you have to do something. You have to do something. Our children, they don't have anything to do after school. I can't even say, well, this one I'm going to tell him to go to this club or to join this extracurricular activity. And she's the one. When she said that to me, I really understood that. It really came to light that, wow, unless you're going to be paying for something, there's no avenue for persons who can't afford paying to join some exclusive club, sporting club or something, to have some guidance and develop their potential, right? So that is one of the issues that face our people, just to ensure that mothers and fathers have a place to send their children after school to get something more than the education they would get at the OJN or St. James's Primary or St. Thomas's Primary, like other places here on Nevis even, One of the other major concerns for the constituency of number 11, there are a lot of fishers and farmers in the area trying to do our best to make a living and to keep us alive. And I feel that in many ways they have been neglected, right? The fishermen at Newcastle, where right now they're struggling. They're being told that they have to vacate their regular landing site and move to another one for the sake of development. That isn't as suitable, right? This is where they have applied their trade for years. Some of them, that's all they have known. And, we need more care into when we look at dealing with people who are responsible for keeping us alive. I like to repeat, because
Yes.
every time we have a meal, we owe it to a farmer or a fisher, right? Somebody, whose life work it is to provide for us. And that's a broader issue, that we can't continue to bring all of our food or most of our food from overseas when we can simply invest in the people we have here, make resources available to them, make resources available not only to our fishers, as I mentioned, but also to our farmers, access to lands and access to equipment, right? The technical support that they need to ensure that they are able to do what they need to do to ensure that these industries continue to be open to women joining as well, right? And so I am giving my pledge, as I've spoken with a number of them, I've interacted with them, even women fishers and farmers, right, who are proud of the work they do, but they feel that they need more support from the government. The last challenge, other businessmen and women in the community that I've spoken to, they would have mentioned, the difference in terms of concessions. Sometimes it varies from what's on St. Kitts and what happens here. And they would have brought it to my attention as I'm seeking to represent at the federal level. And we need to look at the ease of doing business, to ensure that we make it easier, obviously, for people to apply their trade. Everybody cannot
Definitely.
work for somebody else,
Definitely.
right? And our economy would only expand when our people, own their businesses and become entrepreneurs. We need more persons doing that, right? And then they can hire more persons, right? So there's a run-on effect. And so I plan to look at those challenges Some things are archaic in terms of, just going to Charlestown and look at, you need to get a stamp from this other place, you have to go over there to bring it back over here. We can streamline things and make it easier for people to earn a living and support their family and others here in number 11 and in Nevis.
Mario, I want to thank you for the opportunity to sit down so people who aren't quite familiar with you across the Federation will become more familiar with your thoughts, your ideas, who Mario is as a person. But at this time, as we wrap up, I'd like you to look straight to the camera and speak to the people of constituency 11. What do you want them to most remember about this sit-down interview today?
Well, my people, I want you to know that I'm one of you. I'm here for you. And the greatest tools that I have, a lot of people say, well, you're such a great speaker and so on. Well, I try. But one thing I've learned is that in order for you to use your mouth, you need to be able to use your ears. And I'm telling you that my ears are what I consider my greatest tool on this journey. I don't claim to know it all, right? Or even most of what there is to know. But I claim to have a heart that supports you and ears that would listen to you. I'm here to be known as the listening candidate, to meet you at your homes, in the supermarket, or wherever you want to meet me, to hear what your concerns are. I've spoken about some of them you've shared with me already, but I know that true representation is built upon the concerns of the people whom I would represent. And so this is also my pledge to you for the remainder of this campaign, that I will be listening to you even more. I will be accessible to you even more. And then after I win, Jamie,
Yes.
definitely
You're speaking
after
it into
then,
existence.
yes, I will still be the candidate that listens, the MP, right, for Nevis 11, that listens to you and cares for you and gives his best to serve you with everything that I have. I know the struggles because they are my struggles. I know the ambitions because I've had them. I've been able to achieve some of them. But I understand, when you well want to do something, but you just don't find that you have the ability to, or the opportunities aren't available. And so it is my pledge to you, to the single mother or single father who finds it extremely difficult, that I would be doing my best to ensure that your child has a bright future and that you are best suited to give it to them. It is my pledge to you, to the businessmen and women who have struggles in setting up a business, running one. I am with you right there. I hear your concerns and I will do my part to ensure that life is easier for you so that you can develop your island of Nevis and not be left out. And I say to everyone, whether you are born here and you go back to the generations, who would have been brought here in our time of enslavement, or you are an expat, or you are one of our Caribbean family members who have recently joined us. I am with you, and my pledge is to make Nevis 11, the best place that you can live and work and raise your family. Because you have a fighter in me, somebody who believes in you, and together we can do it.
Thank you so much, Mario. Ladies and gentlemen, Mario Phillip, the candidate for the Nevis Reformation Party, Constituency 11.